Hi guys, welcome back to Deep Cuts of Horror, the podcast. Okay, well I already fucked up. First go. Hi everyone, welcome to Deep Cuts of Horror. Oh, fuck. You know what? It's a rough morning. Best fuck it up all at once. Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to Deep Cuts of Horror, the horror podcast that cuts deeper. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. It's so exciting we were able to get her on the show this week. We got her schedule all lined up, talked to her agent, cleared everything out, signed a D&E. Sorry I couldn't say anything about this on social media, but it's finally out. So we are back with my best buddy, Martha. Say hi, Martha.
Hi.
Martha is so glad you could be with us. Her plane literally landed like 4 minutes ago.
Jet set. I can't help it. I'm very, what's the word I'm saying? Sought after talent.
Thank you for gracing us with your time to talk about a very important film. So this episode, we're going to be talking, if you haven't known already by the title of the video, we're discussing 2005's seminal, criminally underrated and Oscar-worthy film Tamara. Now, compared to your work, Martha, in cinema and in the industry, I just want your insight.
Well, it's definitely a masterpiece. That's for sure. A lot of time, attention, and love was put into this movie.
Okay. Okay. My thing is, I've given this movie a lot of thought since we decided we were doing it for the pod. I can't really say that. I can't really compare it to too many big budget horror movies. Because
No.
poor thing, it just didn't have the budget. Now, if they couldn't secure a budget, they probably shouldn't have made a movie, but what we got, well, I like the concept.
Yeah, you can tell they definitely tried. They had a vision, and they went for that vision, even if the budget did set limitations in realizing that vision. They still stuck with what they wanted to do, regardless of how
Right,
it came
and
out
it's
looking.
weird. The quality of this movie, it's somewhere between early seasons of Supernatural and late seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That honestly, yeah, I don't think I could think of a
With the
better
opening title
way to put
font of Charmed. I see what I
Yeah,
see.
just that whole opening sequence. I thought I was watching Charmed, and then I
Oh
remembered
yeah,
that it was
yeah.
Charmed.
Because she has the athame, she has the incense burner, she has just these pentagram blankets everywhere.
Pillar candles everywhere at different heights and burn wings.
Weird voodoo dolls with a bunch of pins in them, which makes
And
you
of course,
I don't know. It makes you wonder if she's been doing this long. How come the voodoo dolls don't work? I thought they would come into play later, but they don't.
yeah, I was wondering about that too. If she had this powerful of a magic, why she wasn't using it beforehand. The only thing I can think of, is that up until this very point, she wasn't doing shit right. Like she was half reading her grimoire and just, kind of winging it, not taking it that seriously. I think genuinely as a character, I think her attempts originally with like the witchcraft and the interest in the witchcraft, I genuinely think it was just something that she was doing to bring her closer to her mother that left. And I think that's why at the beginning part I don't think it was really that serious for her. She also didn't really have, her life was shit, but she didn't seem that motivated for it not to be shit at the start.
Mm-hmm.
She seems very timid and more, just internalizing her issues than actually seeking any type of relief or change.
Yeah.
I don't think there was that driving factor until,
Yeah, because to me,
long
looking at
progress.
this character, she doesn't seem like she'd necessarily be into witchcraft. I don't know. Her character, I say that, but her character just kind of... This movie suffers from... let's talk about this. This movie suffers from the hot girl wearing glasses and a ponytail and now she's ugly. That you see in movies like She's All That. They make fun of it in Not Another Teen Movie. Pretty much every teen movie does this. And this movie does it twice.
Yeah, it really does. It does it twice. And then there's also the fact that like she's the girl, the nerd to hottie, but let's also throw in that she's a witch. And she does witchy shit. But she doesn't look like a witch. Like she doesn't dress like the witchy bitches in the 90s. Like she it's just kind of like an afterthought that she's a witch.
Well, the thing is, the way she looks, just like appearance-wise, and this is the actor, she is very 2005's hottie. Not even Chloe Grace Moretz in the remake of Carrie. Sorry, guys, it's raining real bad out here, so you might hear some thunder. But Stevie Nicks says thunder only happens when it's raining. Yeah, she's definitely a 2005's hottie. Even Chloe Grace Moretz, they did a better job at making her look good in Carrie. More socially awkward. This girl, she's just wearing ill-fitting clothes and has hair in her face, but you can definitely tell she is, like, a bombshell. And we even it might also be the fact that when we first really get to see her, she is a bombshell. Because the movie kind of opens after we establish what Tamara is. This sort of dream sequence that she's having, where she's we find out she has this crush on her English teacher, Mr. Tortellini?
Yeah, Tortilli, something like that.
Tortilli? Hang on. Natoli. Natoli. I got it.
Yeah, we got it. No big deal.
But she's dressed hot, and like we see her in the majority of the movie there. When we see her in her regular clothes, it just looks kind of goofy. What did you think of it, Martha?
Honestly, I felt the same way. I think, because when you go from that dream sequence to what she's really like, it feels weird. Because you're just like, everything's the same about her except pretty much her clothes and her hair. So, I mean, if she wanted to be like that, and that's what she dreamed of being like that, I mean, it's not like she'd have to get plastic surgery or anything to achieve that.
She wouldn't even need a facial.
No. She had clear skin. Bitch just needed a hairdresser and a decent trip to the mall.
She didn't even need a hairdresser. She just needed to not do whatever she was doing with her hair.
Yeah, because I think with that budget, they didn't have a hairdresser. I think they just told him to do and show up on shit.
Yeah. Even when she's hot, the hair is...
curls.
The hair is giving Ferris to the Fair pageant.
Yeah, and it's like, the jealous stepmom insisted on them doing it instead of mom, because they had to contribute to the pageant in some shape or form, so that whenever she wins, which she doesn't because her stepmom did her hair, she could get some claim to fame. But obviously she didn't win because the curls are growing like different directions. Like, women that are listening, you probably know what I'm talking about. Men too.
I feel like you're projecting. This scenario's you projecting.
Okay. I know this so well just because I've done it. Like, I was so bad at curling my hair when I was a kid that, like, I know instantly what she was doing wrong. She wasn't keeping the curling in the same direction when she was doing it, and so her curls were poking out in different directions. It bothered me. It's my biggest quarrel with this movie is the hair. Not even just for her character.
I was gonna say that's your biggest quarrel. That's the hill you're dying on with this movie.
That and the practical effects. But I mean, a lot of that.
And we've already established from the last episode you were on Cherry Falls. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that one. That you're no stranger to some bad practical effects. I mean, we discussed how one of your favorite movies is the first Evil Dead.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can forgive a lot.
Yeah, there is I have a love-hate relationship with the bad practical effects. I think for me specifically, where I draw the line of it's bad and I don't enjoy it is when, if they had just scaled back the vision a little bit and revamped it, they could have made it work. But when they have an idea of what they want it to look like, they don't have the means to make it happen. So they still half-ass make it happen, and it doesn't realize their vision, and it's not... If they had just done a little less with some things...
This movie was giving me extended CW pilot. They could have made a Tamara TV show or some sort of like teen Ghostbuster sort of story. That would have been something. But speaking of ill-fitting clothes that Tamara wears, Mr. Natoli, his whole look, I mean, he's a cute guy, relatively cute for Canada. His whole look is very 2005 teacher, and unfortunately back then that was when we were wearing the really baggy pants and the really baggy dress shirt that just kind of hangs off the poor man.
I don't know. Like, honestly, like, I don't understand how, one, that was ever a fashion thing. And I don't necessarily think, again, it was. I think that he didn't show up for his dress fitting. And so he just got stuck with what they had.
I would almost believe
Because, like,
that...
I don't even think it was fashionable then.
Yeah, I would almost believe that the movie recast its lead, so they just didn't do anything with the wardrobe department.
I can believe that 100%.
No.
Is that what happened?
That's just what I'm manifesting.
But you can believe it. I mean, I would believe it if you walked up to me and you're like, this is a fact. And you said that happened. I would be like, that would make so much more sense. That would explain the lack of chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
I mean,
so Tamara, I guess, is really into witchcraft. She's reading a book at school called Intro to Witchcraft, which is weird. She's an outsider. She's wearing her little outfit she got from the Pentecostal Gap. And she's just getting bullied. Because, why is she getting bullied? She wrote a paper about steroid use at the football team. And Mr. Natoli thought the paper was so good, he published it in the school paper. Which my school would never. The school paper was the lunch menu, field trips, stupid science expeditions that the AP classes were doing, whatever the choir was doing, and then just something nice about the band so that their self-esteem would go up and they wouldn't take to Tumblr. Hopefully get off Super Hulock.
It's not exactly a place for hard-hitting journalism or big scoops or bringing down the corruptness of the school.
Yeah, especially when you're already an outsider, and it wasn't even her decision to do this.
Yeah, she just wrote the paper, I think, just as an exercise in her writing and journalism, and gave it to him as just kind of like, hey, can you tell me what you think about this? And he was just like, I'm gonna publish it. I don't care what you gotta say, but I'm gonna publish it no matter what the repercussions are gonna be for you. You're already kind of weird.
But
I'm
what,
sure this is gonna help.
To what lengths did she go to do this report? There had to have been some factual evidence that she presented in this paper that made things follow through. Because they were doing, as they say in the story, they were doing piss tests on all the major players.
Yeah, because of that article. Now that you think about it, I hadn't really thought about that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what did she do? Did she just follow him around? Does she hide in the locker rooms? Like, how would she even have known that they were?
I'm thinking about it as kind of corrupt school administrator who all of our money comes from the ball team perspective. We both live in small towns. This is the way we do shit. I'm thinking about it in that regard. And when you think about it in that regard, it's like, okay, well, one, where's her proof? Two, she's just sour against the school system. Three, this is gonna make her open to attacks if it's published.
Yeah. And which it does.
Yeah, exactly. Which it does. And I want to know what school advisor signed off on this, because hopefully there's a, student advisor over the journalism club who oversees all these little projects. It is Mr. Natoli. Oh my god.
So, literally, she gave him that, I guess, is just kind of like, hey, see how you like this, just give me your thoughts on it. And he's like, I'm going to publish it in the paper, because I have that authority, and I think
well, here's also the thing. He could have published it anonymously.
Yeah, that's definitely That's definitely, but no, it had her name plastered all over it.
Yeah,
Just
so
had
now
to do that.
she's a target. She's a
Yeah, this
target because
escalates
of
really
this.
quickly.
Really, Mr. Natoli's kind of the villain here.
Honestly, yeah, I didn't like him really at any real point in time in this movie. It was hard to, I don't know, it was hard for me to root for him in any sense of the word or like be
Well,
concerned about his
he
well-being.
knows that Tamara has a puppy crush on her. And I think he kind of used that to. Certainly, he knows he made a mistake in doing all this shit, publishing that shit in her name, and so he just uses her crush on him to minimize the fallout. Because it's highly unethical as a teacher to do something like that. But first of all, let's get real. Small town school where all their money comes from the football team and they'd have to bench people. They're not publishing something like that.
Oh no, that definitely
No.
wouldn't happen.
But it's here that we're kind of introduced to our other characters. The characters we'll know for the rest of the movie and unfortunately follow. The first being, I forget her name. I just always called her Canadian Halle Berry because she just kind of looks like a Canadian Halle Berry. Like a Halle Berry you would buy off Wish.
Yeah, I can't remember either. She doesn't really have any character.
Keisha.
What's going on?
Miss Keisha. And there was a moment during the movie I was like, Miss Keisha. Miss Keisha. Oh my fucking god, she fucking dead.
So is she like a cheerleader? Is that what she is? I know she's one of the popular girls.
She's wearing like the 2005 furry tracksuit, which makes me happy.
Oh yeah, no, she definitely had that. She would have fit in well in the cast of Mean Girls with her tracksuit, at least with her mom, the cool mom.
Yeah, and I tried to notice that every piece of clothing in this movie, except for Tracksuit Girl, it was just so baggy.
Yeah, and except for whenever Tamara does her hottie thing, her clothes isn't really baggy at that point, but up until that point, her clothes are baggy. Yeah, so she's like the it girl, I guess, at the school. 'Cause she's dating the big star football player. And what was his name again?
I do not know. No, it's not Jesse. No. I missed a lot of names.
Yeah, I did too, because I didn't like any of them. This movie did not do it. That is one thing about this movie that I will say. It did not do a good job of you getting connected to the characters or feeling any type of real. Like, there's one or two moments with some of the characters where you're just kind of like, they deserve better than that. But other than that, they're all just kind of like, yeah, make them burn.
I'm gonna say it's not all the actors' fault. The writing doesn't lend itself to be very helpful either.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They don't really produce any real scene. Like, there were no scenes written that would make you feel like that the acting would be able to make you feel that way. Like, they weren't really given the opportunity.
Like, the characters keep calling Tamara a trailer trash whore. Which, looking at her...
She doesn't live in a trailer.
One, she doesn't live in a trailer, and two, she doesn't look like she... In your head, if you're looking at stereotypes for, like, someone who's trailer trash, that's not her. Honestly, you pin her, the way she's dressed, as the shy, sort of over-religious, bookworm type girl. So they really don't nail it on the head. And then we have... I'm just gonna go ahead and look up the characters of this movie so we can have a fucking conversation. So yes, we meet the main cast of who we're gonna follow, which is Keisha, Jesse, Patrick. Keisha and Jesse are dating, aren't they? Yeah. Star football. And then Patrick is Jesse's best friend. And then for some reason Roger is also there. Roger is the second victim of this hot person who is supposed to pretend to be like nerdy and gross. But in actuality, he's the hottest guy in this movie.
No, he's supposed to be the AV nerd.
Yeah, he's the AV nerd, but he is legitimately the hottest guy here. Not in a CW kind of way, where I think that's what gets me. It's not like in a CW kind of way where even the nerds are sexy. It's in a she's all that kind of way, whereas we're supposed to think that they're also grody and a nerd. When Roger is trying his damnedest to not just be the sexiest thing in this movie. Namely, especially with his dialogue. He says, that is one quality libation. That is his line when they hand him a drink. That is one quality libation. See, he called it a libation.
So hard.
Yeah, he called it a libation and not a drink, so...
You can tell they didn't want him to overshadow the ones that were supposed to be hot, but he still does, because he's just that hot, and they're just not. Like, it would be different if, like, Jesse and Patrick were attractive. But when I look at them, I don't see. Maybe it's just me. I mean,
make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Like, it's just a no. Like, you look at them and you don't think, oh, they're definitely like the most it person in their group of people. No, that it definitely is. They don't even have any type of charisma. And then, meanwhile, here's poor Roger that they've shoved glasses on his face, and they're just trying to be like, be anything but attractive. And he's like, okay, I'm trying. But, it doesn't work.
It's just not working. He's just way too hot.
It just radiates sex appeal.
Girl, that is true. But this little cast of characters are just hugely concerned with the paper that Tamara wrote. And this is where she kind of has a target on her back because of it. And they want to try to get her back for it because Jesse, the coach, said they wanted him to pee in a cup, and he blatantly refused to pee in a cup, which I feel like says a lot about your character if you're not going to pee in a cup. So they come up with a way to kind of get her back. Meanwhile, Tamara walks home, and I clock this thing as she's walking home. She lives in a repair shop. I'd say not a very good one because there's just like shit that needs repaired all over her house. But right next door to them is a VCR repair shop that doesn't exist anymore in the Lord's year 2022. And we get to see her home life. It is, I would say, it is very low income and blue collar, and we find out her dad's an alcoholic. A bit of a nerd. I want to know where they got these people, because they do not fit type.
Yeah, like, you don't look at his dad, you think he'd be like the creepy uncle. You don't think he'd be your dad.
I mean, they could do creepy dad, they just have to rewrite his character a little bit. It's like, the guy you got isn't for the role you got. Just like how, just how, like, little Roger doesn't belong where he is.
And you basically see when we're introduced to her dad that he's a piece of shit. He basically blames her and stuff for the mom leaving and takes it out on her and is hateful. Like, he tries to redeem himself by apologizing sometimes, but it's like, you're kind of a piece of alcoholic shit. So it's you could see why Tamara doesn't want to be home most of the time.
Yeah, she's just, I don't know. I don't know about this character. It's almost comical. The way he keeps bringing up, wait. Tamara's mom didn't die.
No.
She just left.
Yeah, that's what it's implied.
I think they were trying to sequel bait us with that.
Yeah. Probably. I mean, and they tried to sequel bait with the very ending, I think, too, didn't they?
Yeah.
We'll get to that at some point.
Yeah, we'll get to that at the end. Yeah, totally. But Tamara's all upset, so she decides she's gonna do a love spell or an attraction spell or something. So she rips a page out of her book. She gets all the accoutrements of witchery. And
see, that's one thing that kills me is that she just got basically threatened by the football by Jesse and Patrick, and she acts all terrified and shit, And you would think that her concern would be doing a spell or something that's either going to protect her or give her some type of defensive abilities to protect herself. But no, all she cares about is the fact that Mr. Natoli rejected her, because we kind of skipped the fact where she goes back to Mr. Natoli to like kind of be like, hey, this is happening, and I don't know what to do. And he comforts her, and she tries to kiss him. And he's just like, whoa, no, like, I'm sorry, but no. And then she just runs out. And Keisha saw it. So of course Keisha told the
Jesse,
about
it,
but,
Jesse and Patrick.
Yeah, but instead of being focused on protecting herself, all she wants to zone in on is the fact that Mr. Natoli rejected her, so she's gonna do a love spell. Like, I just love female teenage logic. It's a wondrous, because that's the thing about it though is
teenage female movie logic written by a man.
Well, here's the thing, though. If I was a teenager in that same situation, I was pretty dumb. So I probably would have done the same dumb, stupid thing. Like, I probably would have went for the love spell first. Myself. So that's why I'm complaining about it, is because I feel like I would do the same thing.
Walk a mile in my Louboutins.
Yeah, so she decides to do the love spell. She starts that bullshit.
But she can't... One of the big parts of this ritual is she does have to sacrifice blood. And the thing is, with this oath and stuff, I always listen to him because it's just a lot she has to give up. Like, there's an oath of fealty and all this stuff just to get this. And I'm thinking, nah, I'm a little too lazy. I mean, I commend you for it, but I'm just too lazy for all that.
Yeah, and honestly, this love spell, if you listen to it when she's going through it and you pay attention to it, it outlines everything that she's going to be able to do, like what it gives her, but what she has to give up. So basically, it pretty much outlines in the movie what all she's going to be able to do. Mm-hmm. So it talks about
dress better, but not be able to do her hair as good as she should. Like, all the attraction in the world won't make your hair better. But the one key component that this needs is she needs to shed blood as a sacrifice, but she's too chicken to do that. So she just kind of and puts it away until she gets a call that she believes is Mr. Natoli. But we know it's the jocks, which I don't know why she didn't know it wasn't the jocks either.
Well, this is what kills me about it. As she answers it and they say that, she's like, oh, this is not Mr. Natoli. Mm-hmm. And then because they start I guess they talk to her about what happened in the classroom, and she doesn't know someone saw. Like, she thought that they was just the two of them. There was no eavesdroppers or anything like that. So when they mention about what happened in the classroom, she thinks it has to be Mr. Natoli. Mm-hmm. Even though she knows it's not.
Have you not heard other humans' voices before? Perhaps they were relying very heavy on 2005 technology.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Although I really don't remember as a kid it being that different when you talk to someone on the phone.
Yeah, no, even when it's crackly. Here we're introduced to a big subplot while this is all going on. Mr. Natoli and Mrs. Natoli, who's the guidance counselor, have been trying to have a baby. With no luck. But that's pretty much all that comes to in that scene. We go to then the group of kids. They're at a hotel room, a seedy motel room, which I don't know. Regardless of how seedy the motel room is, I don't know one that'll rent to just straight up high schoolers.
I know, right? And the thing about, there was even a joke made by Jesse, because Patrick goes and gets the hotel rooms. Mm-hmm. And Jesse's just like, he brings freshmen here all the time. He's basically like, he probably has like an awards member program with him. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I'm just like, I guess this seedy motel, I guess Patrick's the only guy that rents it, so I guess they just don't care. Mm-hmm. He's their only income. That's the only thing I can figure.
Wait, Jesse was the one from LA. Hang on. Okay, so yeah, Sean.
Sean the jock?
Yeah, Sean and Patrick.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay.
So yeah,
Anyway.
Sean makes a joke about Patrick, talking about how he brings girls here all the time, and Jesse does say something stupid, but I can't remember what it is. All I could think about is, it is criminal. It is so criminal that Canadians have to act American.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where we really get to see more, because there were two other characters we've not mentioned yet, which is actually Jesse. He's from California. He's only been going to the school like a month or two, and he started dating this girl, and she's the only girl
Natalie.
in the school, Natalie, that's like has like one or two interactions with Tamara, and
Yeah, and they
nice
have,
to her.
well,
Like,
not
she's
even
not
one or
mean.
two, just the one. They're kind of picking on her in the locker room, probably making fun of Tamara's body. I don't know why they do that, just because she doesn't have an ass,
She's
but this
hot.
is 2005. Everybody was like, does my ass look big? And they'd be like, no, and they'd be like, great. Remember when that was a thing?
It was all about titties in 2005.
Yeah, but I still see movies from around the era, and it was a good solid 10 years, where they talk about my ass looks huge, and I'm like, good. Get that.
That was funny because like a few months ago, my mom was just like, Martha, you're fat, like your ass is fat. And I'm like, thank you. And she's like, why are you? I was like, I know you're in your 60s, but it's in trend now to have a fat ass. And she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she was like, I wasn't meaning it that way, but okay. Anyways, so she's nice to Tamara, so she's like one of the only nice people. She's throughout the movie, she seems to be like a genuinely nice, good person.
Mm-hmm.
Like she tries to make the better decisions out of the group. But anyway, so they somehow ended up being invited to this whole instance because basically what happened was they decided to set basically like a revenge little trick on Tamara to get back at her for writing the article.
Yeah, they
So
rent
they
two.
needed.
Yeah, they rent two hotel rooms. They're in one, and they set up a camera in the other, which is where they told Tamara to meet Mr. Natoli in.
And that's how Roger ended up getting involved, was they knew that that's the plan they wanted to do, but they had no experience themselves with setting up audio or video recording stuff. So they knew Roger was the AV nerd, and they knew he worked at the video store, like the video rental store. So they tell Roger, they're like, hey, we're going to have this really awesome party, and you can come. And we'll just need you to bring your stuff so you can set it up so that we can party in multiple rooms and it'd be really cool or whatever. And as they're trying to get Roger to go, because Roger's just like instantly knows something's wrong. He's like, they wouldn't invite me, like I'm not really invited, so like he wasn't going for it. And then Jesse and Natalie, mainly Jesse, overhears they're inviting Roger to a party, and he's like, oh, I just moved here from LA a couple months ago. I haven't really found much to hang out or do around here. Can I come to the party? And they're just like, you know what? Yeah, fine. That's cool. And Jesse's just like, Roger, come. It'll be good. And Roger's just like, all right, yeah. So that's how they all ended up going, even though they're the three, Keisha, Sean, and Patrick are the only three that actually know what's going to happen. The other three are just kind of roped in, thinking that they're just going to go to a cool, high school party, probably do some drinking, maybe smoke some marijuana, some weed cigarettes, and probably have a little bit of unprotected sex. Like, that's what they think is probably going to happen.
Martha, you're projecting again.
How am I projecting? I didn't go to a single high school party. I will have you.
Yeah, Martha was invited to the second motel room.
I was Tamara.
It's okay, we were all Tamara. You know what happens to the Tamaras in the world? They host podcasts.
Specifically about horror movies.
Okay. Two little tidbits of mine that I got from these two scenes. One, it should be criminal for Canadians to act American. Because the pretending to be from California is almost offensive, if it weren't so true. Of course, Americans act Canadian all the time, so I'm sure.
They had him flat iron his hair. I don't know if they had him do that or if that was just a style choice of himself. That, for me, was the one thing about Jesse. That they tried to make him into, like, this LA,
Surfer
like,
dude.
almost surfer dude. and they just flat iron his hair. It's 2005. He's got the whole whole swoop going for the swoop because it's flat ironed so poorly, it doesn't swoop. It's just straight, and it is just awful.
It's like a sad ass bowl cut.
Honestly, I will take a guy with the spiked frosted tips over that any day of the week.
Baby boo, you're talking to me, the one who loves Sugar Ray. Mark McGrath is a hottie. Hashtag Mary Roach for life. Like, that is the one pillar me and Mary Gilbo stand on, is Mark McGrath is a hottie.
Oh my god. But anyways, his hair's awful. And that just kind of goes in with that. I don't know, again, if that was like a style choice that he made, if he was just trying to like encompass like the surfer dude vibe. Because you do get to see his natural hair there at the very, very end, because he's sweating and it kind of sweats out the flat ironed hair. So you kind of get to see he has a natural curl to it. And you just, at that moment in time, you get so angry because you realize that whole movie he could have been attractive, but he wasn't because of that one choice.
Yeah.
At least I did. I got legitimately angry.
Yeah, Patrick's really the only one who went on to do anything, so good for him. And the second thing I kind of wanted to note here was poor Roger could have avoided being implicated had the story taken place like 5 years later. The invention of the smartphone would have removed implication altogether.
Also, what kills me about it too is if Roger had just come, set it up, and then if he just been paying attention and realized it wasn't really a party, because there was like, it wasn't really a party. There was like 5 other people there besides him. So like he knew it wasn't a party other than someone handed him a drink. So at any point in time, he could have used his spidey senses and gone, well, this doesn't really seem like a party. I've done what they wanted me to do, so I should probably just leave.
Yeah, but Roger signed out that equipment. He is responsible for it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that's how it worked back then.
He probably signed a whole... Yeah, he probably, at the beginning of the semester, signed a whole paragraph stating that he would be responsible for it and replace it and would uphold the Journalism and AV Club Code of Ethics, which was basically don't take pictures of your penis.
I feel like this is personal for you, Dylan. Did you have to sign that?
No, because I didn't have a camera. I had a webcam and an Omegle.
Because you were a teenager 5 years in the future.
Yeah, because I was a teenager 5 years in the future and got groomed by strangers online. What of it?
I think we all did. I think that's just the collective of everybody that was born between 96 and like 2000 have been groomed on the internet at some point in
the
their
vast
childhood
majority of our
teenager.
audience, because right now we're polling really popular between people 35 and 48. They're not gonna know what's going on. So pretty much, let's explain it for everybody. Omegle is still out there. They from what I understand, they've updated their policies a bit, so it's not as crazy. But back in the wild, that was where you go to see wild penises. Well, I should say penises in the wild. Or you could just talk about your favorite YouTuber.
Basically, what Omegle is and was is it basically is a chat site that specifically anonymously routes you with people. Like the moment you go in, like you click to join, it pairs you with one other person to chat or video chat. I just use chat because I didn't have a webcam when I was a teenager. In fact, that's how I met my Canadian boyfriend that I dated for a year when I was 16 in Canada. I met him on Omegle. But
send him the link to this episode.
But yeah, that's what Omegle is. Although now the kids call it Omegle, and my 14-year-old niece looked at me weird when I called it Omegle, and she was like, why did you call it that? It's Omegle. And I'm like, I can't help it, y'all changed the name and shit. When I was a kid, it was Omegle. So.
Second of all, you shouldn't even be on there.
Yeah, she was like, I was on there and I saw a man's privates. And I was like, That's what it's for. Get the fuck off of it. Like, I don't know why. Like, why are you acting like you don't know what's on the internet? You literally grew up with it. You know it's a disgusting place. Stay off of it.
Yeah, my generation found out about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
We were the pioneers. We crawled so y'all could run away from the predators, okay?
Yeah, but unfortunately we met a few. I was a lot like Rizzo in Greece, and I was a one-woman USO, so I kind of had them all over the country.
I have no doubts.
All over the world, really.
No, I just had the one in Canada.
Mr. Worldwide.
I was satisfied with the one, although he was actually my age.
Yeah, mine weren't. Moving on. So in this movie, Tamara has the page of the love spell out, and she, puts it in her clothes or whatever. That's weird, right? Like, why would you rip out the page of love spell and just keep it with you? What was the point of that, honestly? Did she want to, show Mr. Gnocchi?
Maybe she was thinking of it like a cell phone. Like I'm a portable spell. I'm gonna take it with me.
Huh. No? Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I'll just save it for later.
Maybe.
Spell on the go.
Or
maybe she thought she would take it to the hotel room with her and do it there while he was there.
Oh, yeah. That could also be it. But
that could have been her thought process.
But then here's my thing. One, Mr. Natoli's hooking up with a student, assumably. That's risky enough. But for any first date, if I'm on a first date and then we end up at a hotel, and then she whips out a spell and starts drawing on the floor and doing candles and stuff, I'm gonna probably peace out, because I don't entertain that shit. I like watching movies about it, but I'm not gonna entertain it.
I wish I could say the same, but I don't have the same survival instincts that you do.
Yeah, no, you don't.
I have to be curious. I have to just be like, alright, let's see this shit. This is probably gonna be interesting.
Yeah, you'd definitely be you'd definitely be calling me saying, so I met a guy. He sacrificed a goat for me. I guess you could say we're very serious.
If it was a man, I probably wouldn't entertain it, because then I would just be like, he's probably gonna kill me. But if it was a chick, I'd be like, yeah, there's some hot witch shit.
Some sapphic stuff.
That's the downside of being bi, is that some shit with men you won't deal with. If it's a chick, you just kind of simp over it, and you're just like, yeah, it's fucking hot. And it gets you into some bad situations, because even if it's a woman, it's still sketchy and a no-go. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's so hot.
Cannot relate. Cannot
Yeah,
relate.
being attracted to one gender is enough. Being attracted to two is just, it's a handful, and it's a lot.
I couldn't do it. I get overstimulated really easily. So when I'm in the grocery store, if I have to pick between too many brands of potato chips, I'll just get frustrated and not get potato chips. I can't think about it that hard. Usually I'm like, these are the kind of chips this person likes, so I'm gonna get them. But if I have to choose, I'm gonna be there for about 15 minutes and I'm gonna get real frustrated.
Instacart's made my life a lot better when I'm in Nashville, because then it kind of makes it better, but it's also worse because I spend literally 2 hours picking what's gonna go in my Instacart cart.
See, where I live, we have Instacart and I use it all the time, but they want to meet you at the door.
Nah, with it being in Nashville, and he lives in South Nashville, so whenever I'm doing Instacart for us when I'm in Nashville, nobody wants to stick around. They're glad to just drop the shit at the apartment door, take a picture of it, and leave.
Well, granted, I'm usually buying $500 worth of groceries, so.
Yeah, I think the max I spent was $80s, because I'll just get the bare necessities.
Well, I also shop around, so. There was one time we had 3 cars in our parking lot because they all came at once, and I felt real seen. Thank you for your service.
Oh my god. Anyways, back on topic.
Back on topic. Tamara's leaving the house, and her dad says this really kind of inspired thing for the story, which, for any of you spooky gals or spooky pals out there who are seeking a good Instagram caption, her dad says sometimes love isn't enough. So go ahead, put that on your bio. Or your away message, or whatever you kids are doing these days.
I'm gonna put that on my Skype personal message for my work Skype.
Sometimes love isn't enough.
My manager just be like, okay, well, obviously Martha's hurting today. I am not going to suggest we do that one-on-one coaching opportunity.
Yeah, they start pulling your calls, and you're handling the calls, but you can just overwhelmingly hear teardrops on my guitar in the background.
That's why I'm so happy I moved to chat, so now I just text people all day. So now I can listen to teardrops on my guitar in the background, and nobody's gonna know about it.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
But anyway, she leaves. Yeah, she leaves, she gets there, and she goes to the room, which, if there's a quote-unquote party, I don't know how she didn't hear it from the other one. Or, if it's a small town, if you have a car, everybody knows what car everybody drives. So you're gonna be like, oh shit, that's Jesse, Sean, Patrick, and Keisha's vehicle. One. And she drives like this Jeep thing, so I don't see why she didn't just automatically clock that. So she goes to the room. Someone, again, pretending to be Mr. Tortellini, is in the room and pretending to be in the shower, saying, just go ahead, get ready. Which, why did she think that was Mr. Tarantella?
I don't know, because he doesn't even try to mask his voice, because, like, at least in Scream, they've got the voice box that changes their voice. You know?
Yeah.
He ain't doing shit. He's just saying whatever is going to get her to get undressed and in the bed.
Yeah.
Not even trying to sound convincing.
And then she takes her clothes off. Yeah, she takes her clothes off. She's in like this matching pair of like this bra and underwear set. That's really fucking cute. And you see her body, and it's a really fucking cute body. She was dressing frumpy for a hot minute, but she was dressing frumpy for a hot minute, and then that's the underwear she has, so she clearly knows how she should dress. But she just doesn't. Maybe that's to deter her father, who there are some issues with. I don't know, but clearly she knows how to dress cute for the occasion, and she has a nice little body. She gets under the covers. Surprise, it's all been a joke this whole time. She's embarrassed. It's a whole cluster. Everyone's laughing and recording, except for the three people, Roger, Jesse, and, what's her name? Natalie.
And the thing about it is they're obviously distressed in the other, because they're not in the same room as Sean recording, because Sean's the only one in the room with actual Tamara.
Yeah.
And he's recording her, antagonizing her, and so she runs out. And while he's recording her, antagonizing her, it's playing in the other room. And so, like, Natalie and Sean all see it after, because at first they're led to believe she was just a stripper that was, called into the other room, and she was just stripping for him. But then when they realize it's Tamara and that he's antagonizing her and he's basically, making her miserable, they get upset. And Natalie's just like, where is she? Like, what's going on? Like, we need to stop this now. But this next part is, I think, what tears me up about it the most is Natalie runs out of her room the same time that Tamara runs out of hers. So Tamara looks around and she's Natalie, and she's like, and she instantly assumes that Natalie's in on it, and she's like, I trusted you, on that whole one conversation they had.
Yeah.
And she gets mad, and she runs after Natalie and starts trying to beat her ass. Like, this shy, timid girl, instead of beating the ass of the dude that, embarrassed her and actually did it, she's gonna go and try to beat up the one bitch that actually likes her. Because she assumes, instead of asking any questions, she just assumes that Natalie and everybody's in on it and is trying to upset her.
Yeah, and it's so stupid because we've literally seen one conversation, and there's been no other dialogue establishing their relationship together as friends or anything else.
Or establishing Natalie on her own, like standalone.
No, because at this point she's mostly just, from this, mostly she's just Jesse's girlfriend.
Yeah. who was decently nice.
Yeah, so the fight escalates. It becomes a back and forth, and eventually Tamara just gets thrown to the ground, but not before hitting her head on a coffee table. And this movie's, one of its biggest sins for me is the sound effect whenever somebody is hit or injured. You get just this really squishy sound effect every time someone gets hit. Like someone just stuck something in their stomach and swirled it around. Real juicy. But in reality, all Tamara did was hit her head on the side, and we get this juicy sound effect. And at first, there's not any blood, but you see a stain on the carpet. Obviously, in real life, where they had to do the scene multiple times. But here's my thing as a business owner in the realm of the story. There's a blood stain already there, so someone already hit their head on the corner of this coffee table. Why is there a coffee table in a hotel room? I don't know, but there is, so we're just going with it. So at that point, it's not a motel room, it's a suite. At that point, I'd just probably pull the coffee table simply because multiple people are hitting themselves on it, and at that point, it's a liability, but whatever. And they take her pulse and they say, oh shit, she's dead. I don't know how she died.
But not before she bled onto her damn witchy bitch.
Witchy shit.
She bled onto the spell. Like she had ripped the page out of the grimoire like we talked about, and she'd stuck it in her clothes. And she'd bled out all around her body. As, naturally she bled onto the spell, and that was the last thing that was needed to activate the spell. And then at that point they start freaking out because they're like, well, she's dead.
Yeah, and we basically
like, well, we gotta call the cops.
Yeah, and we basically get a wish.com I know what you did last summer conversation where they figure out what they should do ethically, only instead of it being engaging because we now know all these characters and know their personality types and how they're going to react to the situation, and understanding each one's motivation for doing what they end up doing. It just seems like all of them are very complicit.
Yeah, except Natalie.
Except Natalie. Natalie says she doesn't want to do it the whole time, and the whole reason that she even goes through with it is because, hey, we're all going to say, is Sean says, Sean says, if you come out and say anything about this, you're going to take the fall for the whole thing. Which, I don't even know how this would kill Tamara. Just hitting your head on...
That's probably why they did the sound effect, to make it sound worse than it was.
Tamara had a soft spot?
I mean, she probably did. Her parents seemed like they were pieces of shit, so I really wouldn't doubt if she just grew up and still had a damn soft spot.
That's why that one side of her hair, whenever she does it up, is a little bit chunkier. She had to hide the soft spot where the hair doesn't grow. Where the unformed, where the partially formed twin never developed.
Was it? Anyway, so they decide that they're going to cover it up. They're not going to call the cops, that they are going to cover it up.
Yeah, and poor Roger, he's just freaking out. He didn't even want to be there, and he's worried about, they tell him that he's going to lose his scholarships and all this during the process. So they finally, they go out to the woods, they bury her, not very deep, mind you. Like, they bury her enough to just cover the body.
I wouldn't be surprised if her nose was still sticking out at the end, to be honest.
Yeah, one good rain and you're over. You're done. So the next day, everything's hunky-dory. They're struggling in class. We see them giving concerned looks. And they're taking a test. When halfway through the class, who walks in? Tamara. Only this time, she is, guess what? Somehow she is beautiful. And
hot as fuck, wearing a damn mini skirt.
Yeah, she's hot as fuck. Who would have known that beneath all of that nothing was somebody who was attractive?
Who would have guessed? We had no idea. We hadn't seen that before.
And it's so funny. Every time I see stuff like this, it's so funny seeing the characters react like, whoa, she's hot now. I'm like, she was always hot.
And then they were just like, that's not really her. There's no way.
She was a trailer trash whore. Well, no, that's rude. 1. 2, do you not have eyes? She was clearly gorgeous. Someone just needed to take her under your wing and make her feel good about herself. But they're wondering kind of how this happened. And from this whole experience, Tamara corners Roger in the AV office, who's been kind of freaking out about the whole situation. And we learned that...
He wasn't in that class.
No, he wasn't in the class, so he was kind of the lone wolf. And she starts talking about how he was complicit in the actions of the people, and he sees visions of him that night talking about how he was going to lose his scholarship and all this, which somehow she has this power of like mesmerizing people to do things for her will. And he gets on and he gets on camera for the whole school, I guess like a little newsroom thing. And he does the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, pretty much. Which includes him cutting off his ear, cutting off his tongue, and then finally just jabbing the box cutter he's using right through his eye, killing him. Which I don't think that would necessarily kill you.
Yeah, and honestly, here's the thing about it. This is going to be the most interesting death.
Yeah, they shot their wad early.
And I mean, it was honestly like... When I watched this movie, I watched it with my 14-year-old niece, because she was staying the night with me, and I didn't think it was going to be that, I was watching horror movies when I was younger than her with my dad, so I didn't really think nothing
Worse horror movies.
And so she was just sitting there. Yeah, worse horror movies. Like,
worse horror movies.
Worse horror movies. And so she's sitting there, and she's just like, that is beyond disturbing. Because, he one by one says those things and cuts off those appendages on his face. And she's just kind of like, well, that was dramatic. and it was really funny.
Well, he's also, in my opinion, outside of Natalie, the least deserving of it.
Exactly. Because it wasn't like he set out with any malicious intentions at all. He never made fun of Tamara because he also was a nerd, and he... just kept to himself and was really just trying to get to college so he could get his degree and move on with his damn life, like pretty much the rest of us. And so, genuinely, I think it upset me the most that they took his character out first, because they took away the opportunity for any type of further development with him, or any other type of building of his character at all, or any redemption for him. I figured him and Natalie were going to get some type of redemption, because they weren't, they weren't malicious at all. They had no malicious intentions. They weren't out to get her. And I was assuming when she touched him, because whenever she touches people, she can see, like, their thoughts, memories, stuff like that, like, instantly. But to her, all she cared about was the fact that she didn't stop them from doing what they did and burying her.
But I'm here to tell you right now, if the situations were reversed, Tamara would have probably done the same thing. It's not that he was complicit, he was bullied into submission by Sean and Patrick and the rest of the group.
Exactly. Because it's not like it's what he wanted to do.
No, and he wasn't even in on the fight.
No, he was sitting on the couch, off by himself. Like, he didn't move from the couch pretty much the entire time that they were in that hotel room.
And you can tell he didn't even really want to be there. He was more worried. I feel like he was more there just for his equipment.
Pretty much, to make sure nothing happened to it. And then for it to go to that, to him being the first one she kills so brutally, and just so humiliatingly too, because he did it in front of the whole school. So she traumatized the whole damn school for her vendetta. Because remember, this is playing for everyone to see. So of course, Keisha, Jesse, Patrick, Natalie, Sean, they all see it. And they all pretty much already know that Tamara's not dead, or at least she's, walking among them acting like she's hot shit. And so they're freaking out.
Yeah, they're freaking out, especially because Tamara just keeps showing up to them and making weird puns about her being dead.
And then it shifts. It's almost like it shifts, Tamara's focus shifts, and all she cares about for a hot minute is Mr. Tortellini and his wife.
Yeah.
Because her main mission, still, even in death, is to break them up or kill her so that they can be together. And she's going to make him love her. Just don't get it because he's not that hot, but whatever.
Yeah. So Mr. Rigatoni is in his classroom And Tamara comes up and she's trying to instigate something, and he basically tells her, hey, I don't think of you that way. And she kind of storms off. Well, it's later in the movie where she shows up to his house while Miss Rigatoni is away. And she even tries seducing him, and apparently he gets a hard-on, which we don't really see. She was like, judging by that. And I'm like, judging by what? I don't see anything.
Yeah, because basically she goes into his house and they're talking or whatever, and she's insistent, and he's like, no. And then so she basically just forces herself on him. She like kisses him, and I mean, it seems like he kisses her back for a minute, and then pushes her away. It's like, no, we're not doing this. Like, this is not right. Like, I don't want to do this. I love my wife. I'm not going to cheat on my wife. And she's just like, well, you got it up for me, buddy, so that gives me some type of hope, so I'm going to keep being a crazy bitch and doing what I want, and you're just going to find out the hard way, I guess. And then she leaves, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She storms out again.
Which, this is all Sean's fault, so she should be directing her energy at Sean for what happened, even though she's slightly thankful. Like, Sean says shit like, he goaded everyone into it. Who are they going to believe? And in my head, I was thinking, yeah, who are they going to believe? You or someone who won't piss in a cup?
And then, I think after that is when they all go to the Patrick's actual party.
Yeah. Tamara's a bit waylaid because, of course, we have to have a body count in this movie. So she gets on to her dad about his drinking and tells him to have another. Which basically ends up in him just biting the glass and swallowing it. And before she leaves, she says there's more in the fridge, which basically means that he is to consume all the bottles in the fridge, which was kind of grody. I won't deny that.
Yeah, that one did make me go, that's rough.
And here I still have promise for this movie, which we lose in this party scene. But what were you gonna say?
I mean, despite all the things that I have to say about it, it is genuinely entertaining to watch.
Oh yeah, it's a very entertaining watch. Is it a good movie? No. Can you rate it on the same metrics as like The Exorcist? No. But I still had a good time watching this movie. Yeah. Now, the kills had promise up to this point. We shift to the party scene. They're talking about Tamara. She shows up at the party. Patrick goes over there to kind of instigate something. She touches him. And they start dancing. Sean sees it. She touches him. They all start dancing. And then they take it to the bedroom.
Yeah, because they're like, we're going to have a threesome.
We're going to have a threesome.
Point, they're both mesmerized by her and under her, like, control. And so Tamara, this honestly, like, this isn't going to be an unpopular opinion, but this is, like, my favorite point in the movie. Because what is the absolute worst thing that you could have two straight men do to each other that's going to, not even necessarily that's bad, but is going to be the most, like, the worst thing that they could imagine could happen to themselves, like, as friends?
They're gonna fuck.
And so Tamara makes them fuck each other. Patrick and Sean.
And I think it's Patrick who gets selected to be on the bottom.
Although, the filming of it was fantastic because the camera conveniently pans away so that they literally, you don't see them actually kiss. It's just one of those things they're just kind of rubbernecking each other. And then whenever it later comes back to them, they're under the covers, like completely covered under the covers, fully clothed.
Yes. And anyways, Keisha's like, what are you doing? And, like, she knows what they're doing, but in my mind, I'd be like, yeah, what are you doing? You all have your clothes on under the covers. Are you building a fort or something?
Maybe they're having a tickle fight.
Yeah. And I want to talk about how grossly unfair all of this is. I'm just saying the punishment doesn't fit the crime. I'm going to go to bat again for Roger. He did not deserve what happened to him, especially since the two people who were most involved in what happened to her and goading everybody into submission, their punishment wasn't cutting off their ear, cutting off their tongue, stabbing their eye, anything like that. Their punishment was they just had to fuck each other.
Yeah. So that was her first, which honestly, at the point in time that it was in 2005,
They didn't even have to,
um,
like, verse fuck. Like, one was a top, one was a bottom, so only one of them was getting something in their butt.
I just love it. Like cause you know how straight men are.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you even like allude to them being any type of homosexual, they like, freak out and they get all defensive about it. So thinking about them, the type of characters they were, honestly, that was probably one of the worst things she could have done to them, though. That they would have hated. Like they probably would have been like, please kill me before you make me fuck a man. In their minds. But then I bet after they did it, they were just kind of like, oh, that wasn't. I actually kind of like that. They're probably into it. But anyways, so Keisha comes in because she's looking for Sean because that's her boyfriend. She knows that Sean went off with Tamara somewhere, so she's freaking out. And so she busts into the room where Sean and all of them are at, and she like freaks out. She's like, "What are you doing? What the hell?" And Tamara's in there. And so this is where we get to see Keisha, the start of her punishment.
Yes, and her punishment is pretty much she has a bit of an eating disorder. So her punishment becomes binging and purging. Which is a gross effect, but I don't know. And this felt a little tasteless in my opinion.
Honestly, kinda, yeah. Because at first she just starts throwing up like normal, and then for a minute she throws up to the point you think that that's gonna be your kill. You think she's gonna die throwing up because she starts throwing up
Which would
blood,
work.
looks
Which
like
would work a little
intestines.
bit.
Exactly, but then they decided to stretch it out unnecessarily. Like, and again, this goes back to them basically sequel baiting later. Them setting up that Keisha doesn't just die from what she's doing. She then goes down in Tamara's, however the fuck you pronounce her name, Tamara, it's whatever.
Tamara.
But, Tamara.
Tamary.
Doesn't even say.
Tamary, the gluten-free soy sauce.
Tam. Tells her that now that she's purged, she's probably hungry and she needs to go eat. And so that's when she starts binging. She goes to where the party, like all the party food is at. Because you know how in those high school parties they have like a table that's got like a whole spread of chips and sandwiches and burgers, da da da. Anyway, she goes down there and she starts eating and eating and eating and eating until Natalie and Sean pop up. And they're like, that's not healthy. You should probably stop. Something's probably wrong with you. We're going to leave. And so they take Keisha and all three of them leave. And they take somebody's Jeep. Is it Natalie's or Keisha's Jeep? I don't even fucking know whose Jeep it was.
Man, we have a problem.
What?
Her name isn't Natalie.
Name.
Chloe.
It's what?
Chloe.
Oh my god, that's right. Where did you get Natalie from?
I don't know. Maybe I saw Natoli and I thought it was like Natalie.
Editing Dylan's gonna have so much fun with explanations on this episode.
So, Chloe, formerly known as Natalie, is kind of a down bitch and has to stand up for herself and her group.
Yeah, this is where we see Chloe kind of step up and start exuding that final girl energy and start kind of taking control of the situation, or at least trying to. Whereas before they were just kind of like, well, we guess she's not dead, and we just hope she don't have no hard feelings.
Yeah.
They think the incident with Roger, they think it might have something to do with her, but they're more thinking that he just felt guilt-ridden. And he did it because he felt so guilty about what happened.
Yeah.
Because at that point, they don't know that he's interacted with her or seen her. They think he thinks she's still just dead and doing it because he feels guilty. So they don't think that because she interacts with the group as a whole a little bit without doing them any harm. So they think that she just happens to be alive. She didn't really die. We just apparently don't know how to read pulses and buried the dumb bitch on accident. So at this point is when they start realizing something's really wrong. And this is when she really starts being we should probably not just sit around and die. We should probably figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so they decide that they're going to go to Tamara's house. So they go to Tamara's house. They find her dad all fucked up. They know something funky is going on. And it's here they find the page of the spell book. And
it's when they start to put pieces together of what's
literal
really
pieces together, because when they put the piece of the paper in the book, it like forms itself back in and cleans itself up. Real nice. And so they leave, and while they're leaving, they see that Keisha has like bitten her fingers.
Yeah, she's starting to eat her fingers because she's binging, and if she doesn't have food to binge on, she's going to start binging on herself. So Chloe, being the bad bitch that she is, just decides, you know what, I don't have time to deal with this shit. So she basically punches Keisha and knocks her the fuck out.
Not basically, that's exactly what she does.
she just punches Keisha right in the fucking face, and she's just knocked out cold because she's like, we ain't got time to deal with this shit.
Yeah.
Let's go to Mr. Natoli.
Yeah, but they take her to the hospital.
Yeah, they got to take her to the hospital because they want to get her fingers cleaned up and stuff.
Yeah, and the big idea is whenever they get her admitted to the hospital, they ask what's wrong with her, and the doctor says she's bitten her fingernails off. And in my head, I'm thinking, in English, doctor.
And they basically sedate Keisha. The hospital does, to try to keep her knocked out, because they realize it's like self-inflicted.
There's a through line through this story where Tamara has a handkerchief of Mr. Natoli's.
Yeah, she used that with the spell.
Yeah. And we know it's his because it says B.N. for Bill Natoli. If it was monogram, wouldn't it be W.N. for William? If you're monogramming something, why would you just do, like, your short name?
Maybe that's what everybody knows him by. Mm-hmm.
It's initials. And it's a hanky. You blow your snot into it.
Well, we'll just call it a plot hole and move on.
But it's at this point that Tamara's come to the conclusion that the only way she's going to be able to be with Mr. Natoli is if he takes out Mrs. Natoli. And so she sends Sean and Patrick over there to kill her, pretty much. Now, I really love Mrs. Natoli because she's a down bitch. She'll fight for her life, but the movie has her making some stupid decisions. Like, there's a knife and a cast iron skillet, and to defend herself, she grabs a pepper grinder, which is like big and heavy, but a knife and a cast iron skillet would have served you better. And somehow they get her to run into the basement, and she's trying to jump out a window, and then she steps on like this glass thing, box full of glass, Christmas ornaments, vases, or something. And we get that really awful squishing noise yet again. I don't and again, it's a foot. There shouldn't be that much squishing noise of just thin glass going into a foot.
I just don't understand, because I think what kills me about that whole moment in time in the movie is the fact that the box that the glass is in is sat on the floor.
She should have remembered placing there. No, it's in front of like the washer and dryer or something.
Well, there's empty space in front of where the box was under the window that she was going to try to climb up on to get out the window. Why wasn't the box set up on that space that was under the window? Like, why put it on the floor? I don't understand why anybody would just put something on the floor when there's counter space right down there. But I mean, anyways, that's just my nitpick thing. That made me mad when I was watching it. Anyway, she fucks her foot up.
But she still fucks up the other people.
Ultimately she ends up defeating them.
Yeah, defeating them. Yeah, she kills Patrick and Sean.
In self-defense, of course.
In self-defense. So I would like to remind our audience that at this point, Tamara and Miss Natoli have the same body count.
If even that. Oh, yeah, you do, because her dad and Roger, and then, of course, Sean and Patrick. Okay, yeah, they do. They have the same damn body count.
Well, here's the thing, though. I would say, like, Miss Natoli has a better body count because Tamara didn't actually kill those people. She, like, swayed them to kill themselves.
Yeah.
In gross ways.
Yeah, so yeah, technically, she's, yeah. No,
the worst thing she did to Sean and the worst thing she did to Patrick was make him fuck.
Yeah, Miss Natali took care of the rest.
Yeah, so now we're back at the hospital, and they see Tamara, and they're scared of Tamara, and they want to get away from her. And it's also at this point that Tamara pretty much sicks Keisha on them. Natalie isn't even a character.
Anyways, what's funny for me though about it too is that even though the hospital sedated her, that's just how powerful her magic in mesmerizing is over these characters, is that it defies the sedation and she still gets up and she starts going after them.
Yeah. And they finally run her into the kitchen of this place, and it's all closed down. But I want to talk about how shitty this kitchen is. We both worked in food service, Martha. Me and you.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how they have a whole fight where Canadian Halle Berry is going to dunk Chloe's head into a fat fryer. Why is there even a fat fryer? Why is the fat fryer still on? Second of all, why is there fries just laying out there in the basket? Are they made? Did someone leave them? Who closed last night? That's my question. Who closed last night?
I mean, that was my question too, because like it was awful. It was dirty. I mean, I know it's a hospital cafeteria kitchen, but damn, like there is no way that they just be openly inviting salmonella like that. And I mean, the fryer looked awful. Like and it was on like because they made it a whole point of proving the fryer was on by having the fryer bubble.
Yeah.
While she's trying to shove her face down in it, so you know it's on, so you feel that imminent doom of what would happen if her face is in it. But why the fuck is it on?
Yeah, I know. At the end of every shift, we would have to clean the fryer.
Yeah, I used to. Yeah, because I closed as a fast food. I was a manager. Like that was one of my first jobs. I worked for Hardee's. Which,
you take it, you pull out the bed, you drain it.
I would do it for my cooks because my cooks were so lazy that I would be like, if you guys will just literally do what you're supposed to do, I will clean the char and I will clean the fryers for you. Little 17-year-old Martha out there taking the damn fryer shit and dumping it over, trying not to burn myself. That was always
Well, I've had jobs where you have prepackaged food that goes into the fryer, and you could use that oil for like 2 days. You'd still have to clean it every day, and then you just fill it with the same oil. But you could use it
No, we didn't.
But you could use it for 2 days because everything was already done. All you were doing was just putting stuff in there. Now, when I worked at KFC, you would have to drain it every night, and then you would have to put in fresh oil every day. And it was cold oil, too, because the fryer heats up the oil.
Yeah.
But that way it's ready for the next day. And this is a hospital. And the lights are off, so I know no one's there. So I want to know, like, does the Food Health and Safety Board not look at hospital cafeterias?
I guess not. I guess hospital cafeterias are above the law.
Yeah. And it's so funny because Chloe and the other guy, Jesse, are trying to find a way to get away from Canadian Halle Berry. And in them trying to do so, they're sitting there, they're talking about it, and they're trying to find weapons, and they grab a meat tenderizer, but there is literally a knife on the counter where they're talking. And you know who grabs that knife? Natalie. Natalie grabs the knife that was literally just laying on the table. Who left the knife there? Again, who closed last night? That knife is a safety hazard. It needs to be put with the rest of the cutlery. Just a bunch of random assortments of shit.
And then they keep scuffling, and at some point is the downfall of Jesse.
Yeah. We have the downfall of Jesse, but Chloe and Keisha, Canadian Halle Berry, are having a fight, And something really interesting I noted about this scene is Keisha's on top and she's punching the hell out of Chloe. Only they keep using the same cut scene for punching Chloe. And they use it about 3 times. You have the angle where the camera is looking at Keisha, and then you have an over Keisha's shoulder shot where she's punching her. And the over the shoulder shot where she's punching her is the one that gets used 3 times. And it's just a bit of movie magic, really. I guess they wanted to implement this a little bit better.
Yeah, those editors were just like, you literally took 2 shots for this fight. I ain't got shit to work with. That's fine, you ain't paying me enough to care, so I guess I'll just try to do this, We'll
now, it's so funny, because up until this point, I'd forgotten they were in a hospital. I thought they were in, like, an actual restaurant for some reason. So that's why I was really pissed off who closed, but it makes even less sense now, because you'd think... I feel like a hospital kitchen would be really hard to work in, just because of all the safety practices that you just have to follow.
Yeah.
You're under a lot more scrutiny. And she's trying to... Poor little Jesse. He's about to die right there on the floor. And... Chloe's like, we need a doctor. And in my head, I'm thinking, you're in a fucking hospital. Go flag one down.
Yeah, and he's just like, no, it's okay. You need to stop her. You need to put an end to all of it. And at this point is when he's been running, he's been sweating, and he finally doesn't have straight hair. And this is the most attractive you see him in the entire movie because his hair's not straight. But he's dying, and it pisses me off.
Yeah, and it makes no sense because it's one of those things, okay, we gotta stop Tamara from doing whatever she's doing. But in the process of that, you're still in a hospital. Can you say, hey, my friend's badly injured, go help him? While you're doing that, you're literally in a hospital. You're gonna find someone, whether it be just a nurse's station aide, a phlebotomist, somebody. Is this the hospital from Halloween too? There's just like 3 people working. Maybe Michael killed them all. But Chloe follows Tamara to the roof, and it's at the same time that, for some reason, the rigatonis are there.
Oh, so they're there because whenever she was being attacked, she had called... Or no. Somebody had realized that Tamara was going to go after Mrs. Natoli. So Mr. Natoli, thinking ahead, went ahead and called the police. So right after Mrs. Natoli had taken out Sean and Patrick were trying to kill her, the police showed up with an ambulance. So they took her to the hospital for a foot, and they had guards posted at her room because someone had just tried to kill her, and they also still needed to question her about why she killed them.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Natoli straight up said, "Call an ambulance, but not for me."
Yeah. And so that's how she ended up at the hospital. And Mr. Natoli had, I'm pretty sure that Mr. Natoli had met up with Keisha, Chloe, and Jesse before they went to the hospital with Keisha. I think they met up with them before they even went to Tamara's house.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think he was with them at the house. Because I think she called him. He was like, okay, stay where you are, I'll come to you. And then together they were like, okay, let's go to her house and try to figure out what's going on, get information from her house. And then when they were at the house, that's when, it came to, they realized that Mrs. Natoli was in trouble. And then Keisha also needed to go to the hospital anyways for a finger, so they just went ahead and they all went to the hospital. And then when they got to the hospital, Mr. Natoli met up with Mrs. Natoli while, Chloe and them dealt with Keisha. And so... now we're back to where everybody that's still alive has now congregated to the roof. Because Mr. Natoli and Mrs. Natoli got chased up to the roof because Tamara herself showed up. And they were trying to get away from her. So they're all now on the roof.
They're all now on the roof. And they're having this whole scuffle about Tamara wants Mr. Natoli. Everybody just kind of wants Tamara to piss off, so Tamara thinks she's going to get one in on Chloe, which, I'm sorry to any Chloes that listen to the podcast. Was Chloe not like the most bitch name of the early 2000s?
Yeah.
Let's take a break. Like, if you grew up in the early 2000s, you were terrorized by a Chloe.
Especially if they had the Chloe Bratz doll.
That's exactly where I went with it too. Like, they loved Bratz. They thought they were better than you. If you're a good Chloe who does community outreach, change my mind. Email the pod at deepcutsofhorror@gmail.com. But I need this. I need you to affirm this for me. I need to know you're not a terrible person. Or if you are, Chloe, maybe evaluate yourself. Say, am I a good person? And if the answer is, well, I would be if people weren't out to get me, then you're the problem, honey. But anyway, they're up on the roof. They're up on the roof. Tamara does her little shine thing on Chloe to see what's going on. She finds out Chloe was actually a good person trying to defend her. And it makes Tamara question what's going on in reality. At this point, Tamara is really questioning this whole revenge thing, like, oh my god, why did I make the nerd kill himself? Why did I make the jocks fuck? Why did I make the lady binge and purge? That's kind of insensitive to people who have that kind of issue. It's also kind of insensitive to gay people to kind of make it equatable that killing yourself by torturing your body is the same as having anal sex. Maybe I'm the problem. So she kind of short circuits. And Mr. Natoli puts two and two together. And in the spell, it says that their destinies are bound to each other. Or something of that nature.
He dies. Yeah,
well,
so one of them dies, the other one will die.
Yeah, the other one dies. And Tamara can't die until the other dies. So Mr. Natoli takes his baggy clothes wearing self, grabs her, kisses her, and then just like throws both of them off of the roof of this like one-story hospital. But I swear to God, it goes on for like 3 minutes.
They fall forever. And here's the thing that kills me about it. I think what's worse than the fall is the shot showing where they land.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even that, because the shots where they're falling, they do really bad CGI, both of them falling like the camera's tracking them down. So clearly they're on like a table and they're just like moving their arms going, ah! And then they do an above the head shot where they're just falling going, ah! And you can't even really see the ground. It's just fog, even though there's no fog in the actual shot. And then when they actually fall, Martha, what happens?
They look like they literally just told them to lay down in like a half embrace. Like, imagine there's a big spoon and a little spoon cuddling. But they're just laying on the ground, kind of apart, not really together, more or less just one's kind of on the other's arm with their legs tucked up. They just look like they're sleeping. There's no indication that they splattered on the ground. There's no blood anywhere near them. They don't look mangled or in any type of weird poses. They look like they laid down on the ground using their arms as pillows so they wouldn't have to get their faces dirty. And they just look very much alive. They don't even look dead.
Speaking of looking dead, there's this whole through line where before people are killed, and at the end of the movie, people see Tamara's true form. And she's this really shrunken up, rigor-mortified, glassy-eyed corpse.
Decomposing.
Yeah. But she's only been dead a day. Why the hell did, she looks severely decomposed for someone who was, and it wasn't like she was dead a long time and brought back to life. Assumably, the spell brought her back to life within hours. So, even if that didn't stop the decomposing, she would still be relatively fresh, because these events happened within a day. A day. It's been like 2 days.
she starts showing that form when she's having that inner revelation that what she's doing isn't necessarily right and is just as ugly as what was done to her.
Yep.
And I think that also is just that accelerated decomposing is kind of like a symbol of what it would look like on the outside if her outside reflected what her actions had created.
Ah.
Which was ugliness.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I think you could look at it like that.
You could. Do you think that was the...
But I don't think they meant...
Do you think that... I was going to say, do you think that was the authorial intent?
No, I think their intent was just like, well, the bitch is dead. She's been decomposing, so we'll just look like a decomposing corpse.
They full on got her... Yeah, they full on got her looking like Samara from The Ring. But Samara from The Ring, that was earned because she was thrown in a well and she died in a well, so she's supposed to be all shrunken up and decomposed and gross looking. Tamara hit her head and she was buried, and it wasn't even raining.
No, it was like and it was like maybe like a 24 to 48 hour period. 48 hours max. Like that, it was just dumb. Like it because I really don't think they had the intention of the symbolism that I was talking. I don't think it was that intent. I think it was just, we're gonna show it, what the decomposing of her would look like without stopping to think the timeline of the actual movie. I just don't think they put that much thought behind it.
Yeah. This movie, and they do kind of a wrap up. Honestly, the movie should have ended here, but we see them in the hospital getting cleaned up. There's a doctor who's just like rubbing a Q-tip on, I think, Chloe's arm, and she's like, you're gonna need stitches. And I was like, okay, doctor, rubbing nothing on a wound with a dry Q-tip. I want a second opinion. He wasn't even putting anything on it. He was just rubbing the wound and being like, you're gonna need stitches on this. The last little gasper of the movie is we see the Tamara's spell book in the Jeep, and we see the hands of Keisha, because they're bandaged up from where she's been chewing them, grab the book and leave.
You gotta remember, Keisha was never taken out completely.
No.
But she was still under Tamara's mesmerization by the time Tamara died. So it was basically sequel baiting.
Yeah, so we were supposed to get a sequel. And usually I go into a bit of an explanation of why we pick these movies, but I feel like it's pretty obvious. If you were to venture, Martha, how much do you think it cost to make this movie?
I don't know. Honestly, I'd be surprised if it was more than a couple $100,000.
Okay, it was actually $3.5 million.
What?
Yeah.
Did it all go to renting that stupid-ass school and hospital?
Well, it didn't go to giving the main actress an ass.
It also didn't go to no damn hairstylist.
Okay, I'm sorry. We shouldn't talk about people's appearances, especially because ass wasn't in then. But they do make it a point to focus on the ass. Maybe it was an homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know why you would do that in a movie like this, but oh well. How much do you think the movie grossed worldwide?
Oh, it was definitely. It couldn't have been more than $1 million. It would have been under $1 million for sure. Yeah. Maybe again a few 100,000.
Yeah, you were right. 206,000 and some change.
Oh, I bet the producers were pissed.
I'd be fucking pissed. I'm so freaking pissed.
And here's the thing we haven't mentioned. Tamara was actually played by how do you pronounce it? Jenna Dewan? Dwayne? How do you pronounce her name?
Jenna. Basically
the chick from Step Up that played opposite of Channing Tatum that he married.
Oh yeah.
So like when the movie started playing and I saw her name come across the title card, it was about an hour into the movie before I stopped waiting for Channing Tatum.
Yeah, fun fact, I haven't seen the first Step Up movie.
You haven't seen the first Step Up movie? I saw it at the drive-in when I was like 5.
I saw the sequels, but I do know her as playing Lucy Lane in Superman and Lois. What? Now that we've taken everybody on this journey, Martha, this journey of self-discovery, what are your thoughts? What did you think of this movie as a whole?
It was just really entertaining to watch because it played on a bunch of different tropes. It didn't really center around one specific trope. It had a bunch of different ones. The first kill was definitely unique with Roger. In how they did it. It was definitely, I hadn't seen one like that before, at least not that I can remember. Not that stuck out to me like that. There were points, of course, that pissed me off about it, but it was just genuinely entertaining. I enjoyed watching it. Even though there were, a lot of, that could be made fun of or poked at it, it still was enjoyable to watch. The soundtrack, even though the sound effects weren't good, I actually really enjoyed the soundtrack of the movie. Like, it had a decent soundtrack
Yeah, the
as far as
soundtrack
like
was
background
giving.
music.
One thing I really like about bringing you on the pod and like just watching movies with you in general is I know me and you can vibe to the same sort of thing. Like if it's awful, we'll love how awful it is. And if it's great, it's just a pleasant surprise, but we almost wish it was something awful. Like Phantasm.
Yeah, that, it.
We
What was
don't
the
get
one we watched the last time I came down there with the sister wives or whatever they were?
Stepford Wives.
Stepford Wives, that's what it was. That one was another one that I was just kind of like, what the fuck? With Phantasm. But I mean, like, it's just a lot more interesting when you have somebody else that you know that thinks on the same type of wavelength as you, as far as like we nitpick the same shit. Like the same stuff that bothers me, you notice and bothers you too, so we can talk about it.
I just love continuity errors. Like my favorite in this movie again being the blood on the carpet. That was still there obviously from when they had to do it earlier in the shot. But you just see in this hotel room that there's a giant blood stain right where she's laying but hasn't bled out yet. And then in the exact next scene you see a giant pool of blood where she's laying. Just
I'm sorry, my seat just sunk and I can't get over it. I don't know why it did. I guess my fat ass just.
that fat
See,
ass
I
that's
was
so
up
in
here,
trend.
and then it just, I don't know why. It just. Anyway, so sorry.
Alright, do you have any final thoughts about this movie?
I feel like everybody should watch it at least once. It is worth at least that initial watch because you can watch it for free, on Tubi, the free streaming platform, so you can watch it there, so you don't have to pay for it. Um, do I think that it is something that I'm gonna put it in my personal collection at some point because I just I think it's worthy of that for me. But I don't think the average consumer would want to watch it if it's not necessarily free.
Well,
It is a fun watch.
good news is I was looking up DVDs of this movie because God knows this doesn't have a blue. Uh, you can only get it in a combo pack of 4 movies.
Of course.
There's also a combo pack of 8 you can get it in too. So if your mileage varies with this, maybe you like one of the other 8 films.
Maybe get your bang for your buck with it. But I mean, it's definitely fun. I definitely recommend watching it with other people, as opposed to just watching it by yourself, because I think it's more enjoyable when you have other people with you that can appreciate the shit show that it can be at times.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say
still,
they gotta be down for like your group has to be down for shitty horror. We can't get people who are expecting the Conjuring jump scares or Hereditary style character development and grief-ridden plot drive. No, this is for people who just want to watch some shit horror and have a good
pretty
time.
much.
Maybe get a little high if it's legal in your state or country. We're very popular in the Netherlands. Shout out to the Netherlands.
Yeah, no, I definitely do it with more than just you. Do I think that you'll enjoy it? I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was, but if you're the type that you only like to watch like the serious cinematic
Mhm.
experiences, you'll want to skip this one. Um, that, as opposed to being disappointed by it, because you will be. If you go in with that expectation, you will be disappointed and you will feel like you wasted your time. But if you're like us and you just enjoy it for what it is, and you enjoy, just like what goes into making films and thinking about where they could have done better, what they could have, improved on, then you'll definitely enjoy nitpicking this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo pretty much all of that. I enjoyed this movie, but then again, I like shitty horror movies. The cheekier and more campy, the better, in my opinion. This movie, I really like the idea of it. Like, I really like the idea of a witch doing this stuff and seeing the practical effects that can come from this. It's a lot like a Wish.com version of Jennifer's Body, and also a bit She's All That, and also a bit Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2. Something to look at. And I like all those movies. If you like all those movies and you think that's your thing, I definitely give this a watch. But I guess from now we gotta go on to our last segment of the show, which is where we decide if we think this movie is deep, meaning you'll probably like it, give it a watch, or if you think the movie should be cut, meaning it's probably better if you find something else to watch with your time. Martha, I'm going to hand it off to you first.
So like I said before, it's definitely deep if you've got either friends or a group that you guys like to watch this kind of movies. So definitely if you enjoy like the campy, like really bad practical effects, like it's more fun just to watch it to kind of laugh at, it's definitely worth it. But again, if you're a big cinematic lover and you've got to have the quality and plot and character development, then you're definitely gonna want to cut it and watch something else.
Yeah, Martha, I hate to say it, but I gotta say, this is a cut. I gotta say, this is a cut for me. I'm not saying I won't reach for it ever again, but it just... If I want to see a movie with these sorts of things, I'll watch something... I'll just watch one of those. This one didn't really bring anything new to the table, and it was just a little bit not campy enough. Like, the way this movie was, if it had just went a little bit more with the camp, I would probably say it was deep. But since it didn't take the plunge and go all the way there with it, like a sleepaway camp type thing, I gotta cut it. Also, also not actually seeing the two boys kiss. That's a cut for me, dog. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they could have done so much better with that. Like, I understand why they did what they did with it, but there was just so much more that could have been done better.
Yeah, because Hollywood and Vancouver doesn't want to hire gay actors.
Yeah. And like I said, like, it's really only for me, like, I'd consider, telling people to give it a watch if that's really, like, their thing. If they really enjoy, just really bad cinema and stuff like that, then yeah. But probably I might watch this once every 10 years, because it's just, and like you said, there's other ones that have just done it better, because like you said, it doesn't really go all in, and I definitely agree with that, because there's moments where if they were just embraced with what they could have done with it, as opposed to sticking with some cinematic vision that they had, it would have definitely been a lot better and more enjoyable. But no, I definitely
and it feels like a lot of people's first project too, so I can't hate it too much. A lot of these people went on to bigger and better things, and I can't really say too much about the acting because there's also script issues, and believe it or not, the way you frame a scene also makes a big difference too, and how the performance comes across.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel like it fell on the actors on this one at all.
No, I mean,
weren't really given much to work with.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah. That I'm not gonna be too mean on this. I picked at its flaws. I made it cry. It's gonna come back in a couple years as like a hot Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, that was my thinking when it started. I was like, oh god, this is gonna be like Carrie and Jennifer's Bodies had a baby.
Yeah. And you even asked me, is this a ripoff of Jennifer's Body? And I said, no. This
Yeah,
is a
because Jennifer's
ripoff.
Body was 2009.
Jennifer's Body is a ripoff of this.
Oh, they just did it so much better.
I mean, yeah.